If you're someone who has ADHD, like I do, you might be wondering how to actually stay organized in the law school application process. How do you get through this process even when our ADHD superpower starts superpowering? Let's talk about it in this video. For those of you who are new, my name is Sydney Montgomery, and I'm the founder and executive director here at Barrier Breakers, a nonprofit that specializes in working with first generation minority and immigrant students on the college and law school application process. And today we're talking about applying to law school with ADHD. I did not get diagnosed with ADHD until I was 26. And it wasn't until I started working at a law firm, actually, that I was able to get that diagnosis. I used to joke around with my friends, like, oh, I've got undiagnosed ADHD, but it wasn't a joke. It wasn't a joke. It was real life. I actually had undiagnosed ADHD. Black women are some of the most underdiagnosed when it comes to ADHD. Actually, women in general are underdiagnosed with ADHD, and Black students in general are underdiagnosed with ADHD. Women, because we tend to have masking traits and it presents itself sometimes as anxiety and depression. Black students are often, especially if they have a type hyperactive, labeled as having behavioral issues or other sort of things. And so there are a lot of, on both ends, structural reasons for why Black women then at the intersection, or women of color in general at the intersection, are often underdiagnosed with ADHD. For myself, I had a lot of masking tendencies. I couldn't take 3-hour-long lectures in college and law school. It was very difficult for me. And I will never forget, I took one lecture on Toni Morrison in Princeton, and it was 3 hours long, and there was no laptops. And I think I thought I was going to die. It was the longest 12 weeks of my life. And I remember the professor, who's a dear friend now, is actually president of Swarthmore now, at the time, Dean Valerie Smith. And she called me in and she said, Sydney, if you pull out your cell phone one more time in my class. And it was so true, because I was like, my ADHD-ness, like, I needed things, but I didn't have a diagnosis, right? So I didn't have accommodations. Dean Smith was very gracious for me, and I love her. And she really helped me learn other focus techniques, because it was like, okay, playing on my phone is not a focus technique. I need to find other focus techniques. But this continued even in law school. I would have snacks. I would need to take walks. But I just kind of thought, like, this is me. Right. And it wasn't until I got to the firm and, was confronted with the billable hours requirement that I was like, oh, this is more difficult than I think my colleagues are experiencing. And I just, like, I'd have swatches of time, and I'd be like, I don't understand. I worked all day. Why did I only bill 4 hours? I wasn't really able to answer that question. I finally went to see someone about it, and I ended up getting a neuropsych test. And yeah, it was very clear. And it was very helpful to get support for that. So whether you are already diagnosed and you're going through this journey, or if this is your invitation to maybe talk to someone about the symptoms that you, like me, had for a while without actually talking to someone about it, going through the law school application process with ADHD can be really difficult. But it doesn't have to be unbearable, and it doesn't have to be incompatible with your success in this process. There are 3 things that are most needed if you are applying to law school with ADHD. The first is clear timeline and deadlines. The second is an organized plan of attack, like a curriculum. We have a curriculum here. Organization is important. And the third is an accountability partner, right? You need those 3 things. You need a timeline and deadlines, organization and plan, and you need an accountability partner. I will say that even myself, as much as I love a good spreadsheet and curriculum, all my students will tell you, I love spreadsheets. I love curriculum. Right? I love the plan because the ADHD in me needs it. There are still areas in my life, looking around my house, that organization is still something that I'm working on. So I'm also saying this to you if you are someone that's like, my ADHD makes it so hard for me to organize myself. If you're like me and sometimes you're down on yourself, like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be organized? Friend, me too. Me too. I see you. I hear you. I'm with you. I'm with you. But this is a place where we can be organized. I have like selective organization tendencies. Like, I can really help you organize your entire law school application process. The laundry in my house, it is another story. If any of you are with me on this laundry thing, let me know. But The law school application process is a battle that I can help you win. Let's talk about timeline and deadlines. It is really very important to have a timeline and deadlines that, even if you blow past a little bit, still keep you within when you want to apply. So this is how I've learned to manage deadlines in my life in general. I have the deadline that I tell myself, but I know that it is at least a week or two before the real deadline, like the real, like red button panic. This is the drop dead date. I give myself at least a 2 week buffer for that because I know that life is lifing all the time. My life stays lifing. And if you have a life that life's like my life, then you may also need to give yourself a 2 week buffer. So when we make this timeline, we want to work backwards from our end result and build in that buffer. Okay, so let's work backwards from that end result. And I do have other videos that break down this timeline a little bit more, but I'm just going to go through a brief overview right now. So if you want to apply to law school, let's say, the second week of September, okay, then you want to make sure that your law school applications are, let's call it the first week of October, just for ease of math. So let's say you want to apply to law school the first week of October. Okay, that's like drop dead, applications in. You want to try to set an internal deadline for yourself to have your application materials done mid-September. Cool. Which means that you need to make sure that you are done taking the LSAT in August. Or, you could take the September test. Depends on when scores come out. It might be a little bit after your deadline. But let's say you're really sticking to that first week of October. Then the August test needs to be your date. Now, here's the great thing about buffers. I just told you. August is the date, right? That's the last day of my LSAT. But if life lies and you have to take the September LSAT, you are still kind of within your October window. Nice little buffer. Okay, so we're taking the August LSAT. We want to be done with all of our materials mid-September, and you have a very demanding job, right? And maybe you have kids or whatever it is, right? So you know that you need to give yourself more time. Typically, it takes students working with us, and I've been doing law school admissions consulting for 10 years. So it takes students about 4 months to do all of their law school application materials well. Sometimes more, 4 to 6 months. Very rarely does it take less than 3 months to do it well. It can happen, but just, if you're working all the time and that's not the plan that I go in with, we can make it happen. But where we're planning, we want to give ourselves a lot of time. So 4 to 6 months. Okay. So mid-September. So that's putting us at March. You still have to take the LSAT. So we're going to give ourselves another buffer. So you're going to get started in January or February. That is the most relaxed timeline. And then you want to give yourself some deadlines. Okay. This is when I want to have my personal statement done. This is when I want to have all of these things done. When you start working with us, we actually have an organized spreadsheet that basically has all of those dates on it. And little steps, because here's the thing: when you have ADHD, I know this for personal things, I can't just have one big deadline. All my law school applications will be done the first week of October, and then just kind of it'll all just happen. It won't happen. I need okay, this is when I'm gonna finish my brainstorming. This is when I'm going to finish my outline. This is when I'm going to write the first draft of my personal statement. This is when I'm going to write the second draft of my personal statement. This is when I'm going to write the first draft of my diversity statement. Literally get granular. Don't get too overwhelmed, but get granular with it. And then that makes you think, okay, how long is it really going to take me to brainstorm? Do I need 2 weeks? Okay, how long is it really going to take me to write a draft? Do I need 2 or 3 weeks? Okay, how long is it really going to take me to research all the supplemental essays? How long is it really going to take me to do the scholarship essays? How long is it really going to take me to do the edits? Am I going to do it myself? Am I going to work with someone? Am I going to work with Sydney? How long does it take for me to get the edits back, right? When you actually look at a timeline with a calendar, not just in your head, because I think a lot of times we make timelines in our head and we're just that sounds great. But actually looking at a calendar and seeing how the weeks go and putting some deadlines, again, with buffers for each of these steps in case something happens, that will really help you. And then this kind of goes into the next part about having a plan and an organization and a curriculum. You have to approach this systematically. What does that mean? You're not just going to say, I will write my personal statement. How? I don't know. I will stare at the Google Doc and I will look at myself and I'll be like, words, go. That's not a plan. You want to have a curriculum. There's an order and a process. If you have taken our 4-week course on how to master your personal and diversity statement, there's a whole plan laid out there for you. If you haven't, I don't know what you're waiting for. It is free. The course is free. If you have an LSAT fee waiver, it is $20. If you don't, best $20 you've ever spent in your life. But you need to have a plan for how are you going to brainstorm. Like I said, I've been doing this for almost a decade. There's something about having a process for brainstorming that's not just I'm going to write on every random sticky note and napkin and paper and journal, and then I have all of these notes and I don't know what to do with any of them. Right? Like that's not helpful. Helpful to get your thoughts out, but then you're like overwhelmed. And again, if you have ADHD, like the overwhelm for me leads to avoidance. Oh my God, there's a lot here. I am going to go do this thing over here. Right? That's how my ADHD works. I don't know how your ADHD works, but this is not something that you can afford to just say, I'm overwhelmed. I brainstormed all these things with no plan and no order and no structure. And I'm just gonna like put it away and walk away. Like you're gonna waste time. Then we're gonna be off the timeline that we talked about. And then we're gonna be rushing and you're not gonna feel organized. You're gonna feel like there's a lot of chaos. And I don't want you to feel chaos. I want this to be a smooth, ideally stress-free process for you. So you want some sort of order. Okay, I am brainstorming with this method. And this brainstorming method is going to lead to this outlining method. Outlining is so important. It's a plan for your essay. You need to plan for your essay. You need structure for your essay. You need organization for your essay. You need organization and structure for your whole process. And you need organization and structure for your essay itself, which is why outlining is so important. So we have a planned, systematic brainstorming and then a planned, systematic outlining process that leads to an essay that is planned and organized systematically, right? Like each one of these things begets the other. You need to have a curriculum for following that. And then same thing with your diversity statements. You need to know what order you're writing your supplemental essays in, and you need to look at things like early action and early decision dates if that's applicable to you, or scholarship dates. Right? So there's like a research phase, there's an organization and planning phase, and a curriculum. And like I said, if you are looking for a curriculum, I'm happy to give you a curriculum. If you watch enough of these videos or listen to enough of these podcast episodes, you will also have the curriculum because we give it to you. I want you to have it. We also have free guides, like free guides on your personal statement, on your entire application process, on your diversity statement. All of those free guides also have the curriculum and the plan. So guys, I'm giving it to you. I am giving it to you for the free, from one ADHD person to another. Here you go. You are welcome. Because without that structure, things tend to fall apart a bit. And that kind of brings me to the third point, which is the accountability. Once you have your timeline and you have your plan of attack, and the plan of attack lines up with your timeline, right? You're going to, each part of the curriculum, each part of the step you're going to do at a certain date, or have a range of dates with a buffer so that you are within the timeline that you want, so that the end timeline makes sense for you. You need to have an accountability partner, because otherwise no one knows. It's just you and God. I have not found him to be the best accountability partner. I need someone else. So that could be a partner, that could be a parent, that could be a sibling if they're super annoying, but we'll make sure that you actually do the thing. That could be us, one of our advisors. That could be another person who is applying. You guys could make like a little accountability group, get a couple of you together, and then you all start the process at the same time. You have the deadlines, you check in on each other. That could be fun. A little like New Year's resolution group. But you need to have an accountability partner, someone who knows the curriculum, the plan, and the timeline and dates that go with that plan. And they're not there to judge you or be like, oh, you're so lazy. Like, look at you. You're like off by a week. But no, their job is to be like, hey, friend, I recognize that this deadline was 3 weeks ago. Is there something that I can help you with so that I can remove some blockers from your life so that we can get back on track? Because I know that you really want to hit this deadline, and I know that it's really helpful and important to you, and you make this commitment to yourself. There must be something that I can do or I can help with in order to try to give you a little bit more bandwidth so that you can keep the commitments that you made to yourself. Maybe your friend doesn't say it just like that. But something nice and kind and encouraging that makes you feel like, yeah, actually I do need some help. I've been trying to hit this deadline, but work has been really late. And then when I come home, I have to make dinner for the kids and I just haven't been able to keep up. Okay, well, would it help if I helped make some dinner for your kids? That way, when you come home, you can get straight to working or writing or something like that. And then look at that, you get help. I have learned that if you don't ask for help, you won't receive help. But sometimes you ask for help, you really do get it. Like friends show up. Amen for friends. We really do need that. Those are just ways that your community and your village can support you as you try to hit the deadlines and stay organized during this application process. The other thing, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, if you have ADHD, please make sure that you're getting accommodations for the LSAT exam. Law schools do not know unless you tell them in your addenda that you used accommodations. You don't have to worry about any stigma. You don't have to worry about what if they find out. If you have ADHD, and it would help you to have 50% more time on the LSAT exam, which I can't think of a single person who's not benefited by having more time on the LSAT exam, especially if they have ADHD, then you should get accommodations for that. It requires a form for you to talk about what you need and why, and then a form for your medical provider or doctor to do the medical certification that you do actually have whatever the condition is, and that, that 50% extra time would be helpful for you. But if you have ADHD, there are accommodations and supports for you, not just actually in the application process, but also in law school with exams, with the bar exam. You are entitled to those and you should take them. You shouldn't not take something that you're entitled to because of any stigmas or thoughts there. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. But as you are going through this application process, if you need an ADHD friend cheerleader, I'm here for you. I'm rooting for you. I think people with ADHD make fantastic lawyers because we're able to juggle so many things and we're able to come up with creative solutions that maybe other people didn't see. It's like our superpower, ADHD. And so I want you to be able to use your superpower for good, to be the best lawyer and attorney that you can be. And I don't want it to get in the way of you being able to apply on time with the application that you want. And so we are here for you to support you throughout your journey. If you have questions, definitely send them to bit.ly/break into law school. Make sure that you like and follow us, that you subscribe to this YouTube channel, share a video with your friend, follow our podcast. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me.